I want to thank you for who you are, to be honest with you, and your beautiful husband, John. It's lovely to have you back here with us. You need to know that we really, and you know that. And you say, you know, this is your second home. Yeah. I know that, and it's beautiful. And the help that you give to this church does not go unnoticed.
Right.
So thank you both very much. So, okay, Jenny. Can you firstly perhaps tell me a little bit about yourself, your early life, perhaps about your parents and your upbringing?
Okay, so I wasn't brought up in a Christian home. We were a family of 9 with Mum and Dad.
Oh.
So things were always, you know, we were as poor as church mice really. And there wasn't a lot of love there. But there you go, you know, that was the thing growing up in the 50s and 60s and whatever. So, yeah, it was a different upbringing to what a lot of people may have had. At least Mum was a really good cook. Our tea at night was always, she was at work and my brother used to pick us up from school and he would make jam on bread. Now I don't mean, you know, we had bread, it was homemade jam, Dawson jam, my favourite. He would just get a loaf of bread and a spoon, dollop a lump of jam on, and that was it, go out. You know? And I think for most people, we all grew up like that, didn't we? Let's be fair. So yeah, it was a good upbringing.
Yes.
In respect to what some people have to put up with.
What you seem like there didn't seem to be like a lot of love there.
No, definitely not from Mum.
Okay. Mum was strict, was she?
Yeah, no sooner a word than a blow.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Okay. Some.
What does that mean?
Mum used to stand at the back door, and we were kids, we'd get up to all sorts of mischief, and particularly having 5 brothers, you know, I was more like a boy. Yeah, you grew up fighting, you know, all 5 of the kids. I once got sacked for fighting, I'm not proud of that, but, you know, that's what we did in our house. And Mum and Dad didn't fight, they argued all the time. But, Mum would stand at the back door, and if we had done something wrong, she would, I hated going past it. I swore I'd never do it to my boys. I did it once, and I really asked the Lord's forgiveness on it, and she would stand there and she'd go, that's for what you've done, that's for what you haven't done, and that's for what you're going to do. So, yeah, it was a harsh thing.
So I take it, it wasn't a Christian home then?
No, not at all.
Okay. So let's just move on then.
Yeah.
So how did you and your lovely husband...
This is a good one. Yes, you're going to really love it. We met in Norwood Hall Youth Club. He wasn't going out with me. He was going out with this lovely young girl, and I was sitting next to him. Him and his friend Nigel were playing darts, and this young girl was so shy. She was such a pretty thing, lovely long hair. And I, being me, went up to her and I said, oh, hello, you know, I haven't seen you here before, and blah, blah, blah. And I said, who have you come with? Because she was just sitting there on her own. She says, I'm his girlfriend. I said, whose? She says, that boy playing darts. I said, you're kidding me? He's left you to go and play darts.
Oh, brilliant.
So my first introduction to John was I went up, tapped him on the back and says, what are you doing leaving that young girl on her own like that? You should be ashamed of yourself. If you were my boyfriend, I said, you wouldn't last 5 minutes.
And how long ago was that?
So I was 17, so 53 years ago. Yeah.
Wow.
So you all know how old I am. Yeah. So that was how we met, and he finished with that girl, or she finished with him, I can't remember which. She probably brought a bit of sense, but you see, he needed somebody like me. His need was, it was obvious, it was quite apparent that he'd got to have somebody in his life that would gently coax him.
Oh, bless. So can we go on then about your children? New Zealand, tell me.
Okay, as quickly as I can. Our youngest son Darryl, who was always called Dix, he was a rebel, a real rebel. I suppose he took after his mum a bit, but there you go. And he got into all sorts of trouble. He was living in a flat on his own, and he was originally with another boy, but he left. and he got into all sorts of trouble with drugs and drink and what have you. Wasn't paying the rent and things like that. And I went round, we've been round several times, haven't we? And just wasn't getting any joy from him. So I went round this particular day, it was just before I was going to work. And obviously we were praying for him as Christians. We were Christians then. And I just went in and I said to him, Debs, you're taking drugs. No, I'm not. I said, yes, you are. I said, do you think I fell off a Christmas tree? And he just said to me, well, you don't know what it's like. I said, come on, Pete. I said, I grew up in the 60s.
Yeah.
You know, I said it was all drugs. We used to watch the Union pub, hadn't we? We used to watch it empty when we knew the drugs had come in from Buxton. I said, don't be so stupid. I said, you use one word. No. But anyway, so I just looked at him and I said, okay, forget it. I said, I'm not, when you're dead, I'm not crying any tears for you. It was the hardest thing I did.
Yes, imagine.
I'm not crying any tears for you. I've cried them all whilst you're alive. And I walked out the door. I was sobbing. I was breaking my heart.
Yeah.
And I said, before I went left, I said, if you want help, we're here. But we're not dealing with all these drugs things. Anyway, I had to go to work then, you know, sobbing I was, and cold water on my face, you know, just to make yourself look normal. And he rang us up. I can't remember whether it was that night or the following day. And he just said, Mum, I need help. And praise God, it was an answer to prayer. He didn't give his heart to the Lord then, back to the Lord, because he had been saved at that time. In his younger days, obviously. We were Christians by then, we took him to church. But he went to agricultural college, and he met this lovely young girl there from Jersey or Guernsey. I just forget her name. But she was a lovely young girl, and she was going out to New Zealand when she finished the course. And she'd asked him, would you come with me? And he said, well, to me, what shall I do, Mum? He said, I like her as a friend, but I don't want her as a girlfriend, and I don't want her to think that that might be something there. So I just said, well, tell her. So he did, and the result was they both went out to New Zealand. He hadn't got a job, she had. He went into a pub one night and said, does anybody need a stockman, you know, somebody to work with cows, because that's what he'd always worked with. But he got a job with sheep. And he hates sheep. Sheep are only good at one thing.
New Zealand has 1 or 2 sheep.
More sheep than humans.
Really?
But they're only good for one thing, sheep are, and that's dying. They're very good at dying. But anyway, whilst out there in New Zealand, he gave his heart to the Lord.
Wow.
And not only that, he came back to the Lord in a massive way, and he trained up for the ministry and became a pastor.
Wow.
And this year, when we were out there in November, he baptised our youngest granddaughter, and we were out there the previous year, and he baptised our eldest granddaughter. Our grandson out there, Jet, he's a little star. He's got Down syndrome, but you wouldn't know it. He's mad. He's, you know, I actually said to him, your kid's a feral, you know, not frightened of anything.
Wow.
But yeah, that was good. And just one thing I forgot to say, when we were talking about, you know, becoming Christians, how we met.
Yes, I was going to ask you about becoming
I was 21 when I got saved. We just got Gareth as baby. And I was attending Christian Endeavour. You know when Tina might speak about it? Well, John's bosses, Arthur and Minnie Clues, were Christians, and they were Methodist Christians. And I jokingly said to Arthur one night when he came round to deliver something, I can't remember what, to the house, and he says, oh, I'm taking my ladies out tonight. And I said, oh, that sounds nice, you never take me out. And he said, why don't you come? And I said, oh, okay, then I will. So I said, John, I'm going out. You'll have to look after Gareth, is our eldest son. And that's how it began. And I did that for maybe 12, 15 months. I was 21, to remember. And Les Walters came to preach. He was a Pentecostal preacher. That was on the 25th of February. Can you believe? In 2 days' time, 49 years ago.
Wow.
So next year it will be my 50 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Tremendous.
Yeah.
Tremendous. And then wasn't far behind with John?
7 years.
Oh,
7 years of
okay.
prayer.
Sorry, John.
Preaching at him.
It's okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, see, what a story that is, and that's an encouraging story to so many of us here, and so many people that are listening online. You know, we all have family situations, don't we? We all have things that seem impossible, but He's the God of the impossible, isn't
That's
He?
right, it is.
You know, and I know His timing, and sometimes we find the difficult waiting, don't we? But look what He's done for your son. That's a beautiful story.
Yeah,
Just tell us a little bit more, just before we move on then, about your grandchildren. Yeah, we must just speak about
I've
it.
got 6
Oh,
grandchildren.
wow.
I love them all.
Wow.
And Christmas Day, we had our first great granddaughter.
Wow.
I must be old. I don't feel old. Inside, I'm 21. So, Gareth, our eldest son, has 2 girls and a boy. The eldest one's Sam. He gave his heart to the Lord, but he's backslidden, and we're praying for him. And Ellie, who's just had our great-granddaughter, and then Maisie, bless her, she's 12 years old. Yes, she's 12, I don't know what she was. But she's got severe autism. And when I say severe, you know, there's no speech particularly. She's still in nappies, that sort of thing. She's so delightful. She has this routine. So she runs into the house when she comes, straight to the cupboard, the pantry, grabs the box of pasta, so I have to make pasta, and then she has to have afterwards the big Kit Kats. She's very funny on food, she won't eat much food at all. She can't have ordinary Kit Kats, she pushes it away or throws it in the bin. It's got to be the big Kit Kats afterwards.
But she's a real blessing to you.
Oh, she's such a star, I can't believe it, you know, we just love her to bits.
See, again, that's beautiful, isn't it? How
Yeah.
God can use.
Yeah.
You know, it's sad to hear
It
how
is.
God uses her as a blessing for all people who meet with her.
She'll occasionally come up to you randomly and give you a hug, and that's so rare. And I'll say, "Oh, Maisie, give Nanny another hug," but you don't get one. You know, it's on her terms. But she's a delight. But if we fetch her from school, you've got to hang on to her because she just runs. You know, it's like, oh, I don't know where she's going. But
Yeah, you got to keep her.
Yeah.
I'd like to move on in a minute to talk about your church, because that's really interesting. We've got some pictures to show. But before we do that, just a couple of minutes. You and John have stayed in many places around, looking after people's dogs and cats and goodness knows what. Can you tell us a bit about what made you do that and what? How?
So John hadn't been very well, and we decided that if we waited till retirement, we may not be able to do the things we wanted to do. So we sold our house and bought a smaller one, downsized, and paid off the mortgage. And we went out to Forteventura initially, just for a year. And we had
decision.
we had a year in Forteventura, which was fantastic. But of course, the money started to run out. But we'd got a tenant in the house that we bought in Leek, and we'd also got a house in New Zealand. So we were splitting our time between New Zealand and the UK, living off the funds of that.
Yes.
So when the year had gone by in Forteventura, we thought, what can we do? What, you know, we don't really want to go back to work just yet. We want some more time enjoying ourselves. So we've always looked after other people's pets. We've either had them at our house or we've gone to other people's house. And John's friend, who was stopping with us at the time, said, well, there must be something you do with animals. I said, oh, maybe there is. So I Googled it. Everything has to Google. Found different websites, but one was a brilliant one, housecarers.com, which is based in Australia, but it's brilliant for New Zealand house sits.
Right.
So we had 6 months in New Zealand. We looked after a small holding, because John's background is agriculture, and on that there was cows, pigs, sheep. Yeah, we had 1 or 2 of them die, let me tell you. And it's so different in New Zealand, I couldn't believe it. They just told us they have a big pit that they dig up at the top of the fields, and they just tip them in there. They don't cover them up, they just tip them in. It's unbelievable. So different to the UK. So but these pigs, I just have to tell you this story. These pigs, picture the scene. It's not just raining, there is an avalanche of water. There was a little creek at the bottom of the fields. I think they called it a creek, a stream we would call it, but it burst its banks. So the fields flooded, and the cows were in the field, and it's like, what do you do with the cows? You know, they were just 6 inches in water. So we managed to get them up. We had to, by the time we got them out of the field at the bottom of the farm, the stream was a raging torrent. I mean, literally, it was terrifying to go across it. But we got the cows through it eventually, took them up to another field. But there was a sheep out, wasn't there? This sheep would do stupid things. So John says, in his wisdom, oh, let's get that sheep in. And I said, well, where are you going to put it? Well, he says, we'll just put it with the pigs for now. And I said, can't you put it in with the cows? No, we'll put it in with the pigs. Okay, we don't know much about pigs. But one was a huge bull. I mean, he was big. He was as big as me. And so we opened the gate, didn't we, for the sheep, to push the sheep in out the way of the cows.
Oh no, I know what you're going to say.
Yes, you got it.
Oh, yeah.
One of the pigs escaped. Now, please picture this scene. It's hammering down with rain. I mean, it is torrential. It's not just a little bit of rain like we had yesterday. If it can burst, all the banks were burst on the creek. And John shouting at me for letting the pig out. It was bigger than me, the pig was. The dog was supposed to be a sheepdog, ran off. He's running down the road after this sheep, after this pig, and I just cracked up laughing. He wasn't happy with me. It was so funny then. So yeah, we did 6 months in New Zealand. We've looking after them sort of things. Yeah. We've done France, and we've done the UK. Yeah, we've done all sorts.
And that's how you got here in the first place,
yes.
Correct?
I won't mention any names here, but we're looking after some cats. We were told that they lived outside. John and Jan can verify all of this. And when we got up there, yes, there were 17 cats, but they lived in the house. And the house was the pits, and it really was the pits. And everybody kept saying, well, why didn't you just get a plane back home? And I said, because we've given our word.
Yeah.
This woman was gone for 6 months. Well, she came back in between, but I said, we've given our word, you know, and our word is our bond. We stand by our word. So that's how we came. We went to Toure. That was our one outing. We went up to Toure to do the shopping and go to church.
Yes.
And that's where we first met John and Jan. And I jokingly said, oh, nobody will come up there. It's the middle of nowhere. She told us it was 3/4 of an hour's drive from Almeria Airport. It was 3/4 of an hour drive up to the house, up to the camp, in the camper. John and Jan, we're coming to see you. Really? I mean, the road was non-existent. Yeah, they did, bless them.
That's what John and Jan do.
Yeah. And when we finished that one, actually it put us off house. It really did. And we went back to work, to our old jobs. And then we started to come over to Mohaka to see John and Jan, and came to Living Water Church. Yeah,
it's funny, isn't it, how God has a rhythm in things, in everything that we don't realise or understand. You know, where He says that He has our lives all mapped out for us, and He does. He does. Right, can we move on? Because I see time is getting on, and what I'd like to speak to you about is about your church in Leek. And I want to, you sort of told me a bit about it, and you were telling me about what a great miracle it all was. So can we just 10 minutes, and I'm going to let you mind the way. I'm just going to move a bit. I think I'm just in it a bit, aren't I?
So we were looking for a church. We were already in the church, beg your pardon, but we were looking for a building. We were in rented premises. This applies to you, doesn't it? And we were in rented premises, but really wanted to buy. And I used to go to this school, and my children went to this school. It was a lovely school. And it was, I think we bought it around 37, 38 years ago. My brain's a little bit. And it came with those 2 houses originally. and I'll let you know we paid £40,000 for it. Okay, so it was a former Methodist school, and it had stood empty for several years when we bought it, and it was used for different purposes. It was added onto it. Latterly, the art department, so there was, do they call it graffiti art, something like that, on lots of the walls, but it was okay, you know. We first looked at the property and we thought, no, I mean, it was derelict. Inside it was a real mess. But John remembers the pastor saying, I don't remember it, the pastor had said, God had given me such a vision for this place that I would take it on my own. Wow. Even if the church wouldn't stand with him, he would go with it. So we as a church body agreed and made preparations to buy. There was a stumbling block, as it always is. We had no money. There was a small factory and a local amateur dramatics who wanted to purchase the property and purchase it for a lot more than we would have paid. The local amateur dramatics were desperate for it because they'd lost their own building, which was the Foxlow in town. It's called the Foxlow. But we were blessed with a Christian solicitor. He was a lovely man, Bill. He could just drop in and, get any sort of information off him. He was really brilliant. Sadly died now. And he was an Anglican. He wasn't Pentecostal as we were. But he examined the property deeds, and there was a lot of them. It was a huge thing. And found a clause in it that stated the building could only be used as a place of worship. Oh. Yeah. What a miracle. That had been written in.
And you said it was a school. I mean, how's that incredible? Yeah. Well,
it started off life in 1953 as a day school for children. The Methodists had a vision that every child in the UK would learn to read and write, and this hopefully would give them opportunities to better themselves, which is an obvious reason. Yeah. When we took it over, to say that it was in need of a bit of work, as I've said, and maybe some these pictures, remember, this one isn't, but most of the pictures are from 1987. I don't know if you can see the lady there with the pink colour, that's me. Yeah.
Am I in the way?
We decided to restore the upstairs main hall first, where the children used to have the meals, and it was the gym and everything like that, as schools were in there. Huge room, massive, as you can, those doors there, they were where the cooks used to do all the food and bring it in. And the walls were nearly plastering, there was no heating, and it was winter, and we were there. I've got so many jumpers on, it was just freezing, but we did it. And we continued. It took months and months. I lost my page. And we were at it for so many months. But I remember our friend Russell, who is amazing, I'll talk about him a bit in a minute, he'd said to, there was a long corridor, probably the length of this room, and he'd said to people, can you just sand or fill all those holes in the walls, polyfill them, leave it a little bit proud. Leave it proud. Who was left to do all the sanding? I sanded for like 2 weeks, and my arms were like juddering, and I did it for hour after hour. This was after the end of a day's work. Remember, we were all working.
Yeah, right.
Every one of us was working, and giving our time at night. Yes. Sometimes still staying till 10 and 11 at night. Wow. Just because jobs had to be done, and you've got to continue, really keep going. But there were 3 main men directing the works. Alan was a commercial electrician working for Adams Food. Did you ever have Adams Butter? You must have had it. Kerrygold. Yeah. Well, it became Kerrygold. It was originally Adams Foods. And Alan worked there as this commercial electrician. Barry, he had amazing DIY skills, and Russell was the real linchpin. He had such a love for that property. Yeah. He again was, and still is, firstly, an amazing man of God. Wow. And his skills were second to none. Yeah. His enthusiasm when everyone was flagging was incredible. Not only that, but he maintained the building for years. And then I don't know if we've got the picture of the baptistry. No, not yet, okay. So I may leave that for a little bit and then come back to that one. But there was a point when Adam's Foods, Alan worked there, offered him the opportunity to take anything and everything out of the building they were closing down. It was actually going to be demolished. They had 1 week to take everything out. Man, they even stripped the wires out of the walls so we could reuse, because it was commercial, you see.
Wow.
And they stripped everything out. We had ceiling tiles, you've seen me painting them, false ceilings, radiators, carpet tiles, signs for toilets, exit signs, tables, chairs, Uncle Tom probably and all. God favoured us, a real favour on that one. And as I say, this work continued for many, many, many months, and it was hard going. It was better when the weather got better. We had to have these huge space heaters, which they put in buildings.
Yeah, big plants, you mean?
Yeah, massive.
With big gas cylinders
But
behind.
we could only have them on when nobody. It was all right when we were working, but we started having services as soon as we could, even though it wasn't properly finished. You know, we got the chairs in there, and away we went. No stopping us. But we had to have these space heaters on, and then switch them off when the service started. And then we were like this before, but we're still working on the building. And I remember the final week, the pastor, in his wisdom, said, well, we're not delaying this opening service any longer. We're going to have a date. And he set a date, and it may be a month in advance, and there was still so much to do. We also had to provide the food, I mean, we were working like, I don't know what. And I just remember that last week, people were, it was hard, it was tough. But the rejoicing, how we've rejoiced today and last Sunday. You can imagine how we rejoiced. We've got this huge building with all these rooms, and it's used. It's used even now, but it could be used a lot more. There is a 3-bedroom apartment that the pastor lives in, up at the top end. There are 2 fully fitted kitchens, like the kitchen we have out there. There's one upstairs and one downstairs. We've got a cafe in there. And we've still got rooms that haven't been used, they're just in the process of being finished off, that have never been touched, although John did quite a lot. That's the cafe bar, but that's actually been redone again, so it looks different to that yet again, but there you go, that's how it was. And that was just an entrance for you. And this is the main church. This is now downstairs, and because originally we were upstairs, we did that room first. So this is the downstairs, and it's just beautiful. And we all bought one of those chairs, the chairs up there. Everybody bought their own chair. And then the baptistry. John was out of work, and the church was so kind to us, and he wanted to give something back. So he was up there 8 hours every day for the length of time he was out of work. He painted so many rooms, and he would just spend 8 hours. He dug that out almost by himself. Russell had helped a bit with a spade, not with a digger, with a spade. He dug all that out. And there's still work to be done. Behind those doors there is a staircase that takes you up to the main hall, and above there is a balcony with seats in and everything. We are just so blessed. God has shown us favour, but it takes faith and a vision. Without a vision, the people perish. And that vision is look at it, it's just fantastic. We even stand in amazement now that we actually did it all. We were younger, of course.
It is when it is time to. I have so many other questions, but we've run out of time.
Okay.
But why I wanted you to speak about that is because we can be encouraged what God has given us here. It's a very different environment we've got here, but God provides, doesn't He?
God shows
does
favour
provide. He does show
if
favour.
we show faith.
Yeah.
Yes.
We've got to have that faith
Yes.
as a grain of mustard seed
Yes.
initially, and go out on a limb.
Yes.
And it's not easy, it's,
No.
you know, but we
No.
believed, and he was a man of God. He was a real visionary. David wasn't
Yes.
he? And without, you know, I don't know where we would be really, because the church is very not, you know, just like here.
Isn't it amazing?
We're blown away. Every week somebody different comes in. Okay, most of them are actually Christians, but we've got so many black people and it's amazing. We love them, we love them. All these little black children running up and down. And some people have complained about the children making a noise. Oh,
No.
don't do it in front of me, because they are the next church.
Yeah.
The
Absolutely.
children are the next church. They are our future.
Agreed. Thank you so much for sharing that with us.